Hi, everybody, and welcome to the VentureBeat Summit Asia Games panel. My name is Lisa Cosmas Hanson, and I am the president of Niko Partners. We are a market research firm that's covering the video game industry in Asia. And I am honored to be here with my esteemed panelists who are all experts in the China games market specifically and beyond. Not that they don't limit themselves to China, but China is an important topic for all of us these days and all the time. So today we are going to focus on the market of China and the subject of games to see where we are during COVID-19 and where we're going in the future. So we'll have some questions. And first I'd like to introduce to you our panelists. Bill Wang is the CEO of Skystone Games, a new gaming company co-founded with David Brevik, the creator of Diablo and former president of Blizzard North. They invest in talented studios and publish those games on PC, console, and mobile platforms. He lives in the Bay Area, as do I. Amy Huang is CEO of Mattel163, the joint venture gaming company between Mattel and NetEase. Mattel163 has published popular card games such as Uno and Phase 10 on mobile. Amy is in Beijing right now, running development and marketing teams in Hangzhou and LA. Cynthia Du is currently the vice president of Cocos, the biggest open source game engine developer in the world. She is in charge of the global game developers ecosystem, which includes marketing, new distribution platforms, support, and forums. Cynthia has worked in Cheetah Mobile and Oasis Games as the managing director of Game Ads subsidiaries and was the co-founder of Synative, a playable advertising solution company. And finally, Jeff Lyndon is a co-founder, the president, and a director of Shenzhen iDreamSky. He has almost 20 years of experience in the games industry. He is primarily responsible for overseeing the import of games and other content, oversees business development, and international strategic investments of the company. He's also the president of the Shenzhen Esports Association, elected there in November 2018, and served as the honorary advisor of the Hong Kong Esports Limited and honorary president of Macau Esports Federation. So I have all these great talents sitting here with me for this panel, and I couldn't be happier about that. Some of them are sitting in China, and some of them are sitting in the US. So let's just start. I want to go around the panel and ask everybody for one word or one sentence about what you think about gaming in China during COVID-19 or for the future after COVID-19. And why don't we just start with Bill?
Sure. Well, during this lockdown period, gaming has been a silver lining and hitting record high.
Okay, thank you. And Cynthia?
Well, for me, I think the gaming industry is actually a bit struggling, especially when we check on the Chinese game developers, because it's really hard to get ISBN. And also, if they publish on App Store, is a lot of restriction there, again, about ISBN. So there are Chinese developers that are actually trying to go overseas. So we think that actually the environment has been a little bit struggling for the developer.
Okay. And Jeff?
Well, I think the industry itself is flourishing due to COVID-19 because players are playing more games. However, from business level and operation level, China is also struggling because of the new changes that COVID-19 have bring to everyone here.
Yeah, everyone globally, it seems.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Amy, how about you? Some comments about gaming in China and COVID-19 or post-COVID-19?
We've seen a rise in the user base during this period due to everyone being home. But that being said, there's a lot of regulation restrictions these days, and certainly a lot of international political clashes going on. So that's impacting what's going on with the policies in China. So while the users have a need for entertainment online, and they want to be connected with each other, but it certainly has its challenges in dealing with the new rules that's coming out every day.
Right. Yeah. Well, some of these comments, I feel like China is always such a huge market and still growing, and we see the data come out that looks like some of the major companies are still growing, and maybe that's just based on people staying at home so much. But on the other hand, it seems like there'll be less disposable income since people were out of work, And yes, these regulatory issues are problematic and cause companies from all over the world to wonder, how do I get things done? And I think with that in mind, one of the questions I have for you is, how can foreign developers build a relationship with a domestic publisher in China from afar if travel is not possible in order to get a game licensed and then submitted for an ISBN? In this relationship-heavy guanxi world in China, what do you think is going to happen if the companies can't fly around and talk to each other? How about Amy?
That's a very good question. It certainly is challenging. You can't connect with people in person. So I would suggest, using your existing network and just to reach out as much as you can virtually. That's what all of us are doing at this point.
Cynthia, do you think that people will, do you think it'll be harder to strike deals? Do you think that there will still be deal making over the next several months if there is not a lot of travel or the opportunity to build a relationship? Where's the trust going to come from?
Well, first of all, turn on the camera when you do the call with each other. To be honest, it's definitely going to be difficult because the time zone difference. Yeah. So to get a meeting online and to talk about deals, especially some important deals, we're still learning on this part. On my background is always, on my previous experience is always turn on the camera so you can look at each other on the face. So you understand, based on their facial expression, you can have a, understanding whether the person can be trusted or not. But to be honest, it's not too much other ways you can do.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, so Lisa, go ahead.
Sorry, Bill. I think, irrespective of COVID-19, pre-COVID-19 or post-COVID-19, it has been getting harder and harder for foreign developers to publish the game in China. And I mean, looking at this panel right now, this is most likely already 50% of the people that most foreign developer will be talking to if they need to come into China. Because there's only that few windows from each company, and there's only that few companies in China that have the capabilities and also capacity and understanding of bringing foreign games into China. It's definitely going to be harder to strike deals, even more so because of the travel the travel situation right now. But I believe a lot of developers, like if you're already AAA developers, bigger platforms, you already have established partnerships in China, either with some of the big guys or the middle tier guys, which I think in that front, the effect will be much less. It will be more of an efficiency problem. But definitely for the newer ones that have not explored in China, have virtually no network or no visibility to Chinese publishers and partners, it will get harder for them to be noticed by Chinese publishers to strike deals. So I think as advice to foreign developers, I would say if you are new to the industry or you just started your company, then going through your LinkedIn network and finding the right guy to bring you to the other right guy, to have a discussion about how to get into China would be what you need to do for now.
Right. Interesting. Okay, thank you. And Bill, you wanted to say something too.
Oh, sure. Well, in our industry, content is king. So if you have great content, I'm very sure you get a lot of attention from the people on this panel and other people in the industry. So it will get a lot of phone calls. I want to say travel restriction just more inconvenience for doing business with Chinese publishers. The bigger issue is about government's restriction on new license numbers. So in year 2019, there were about 1,400 titles received approval from government. So only about 13%, 185 are foreign titles. So for this year, the number may drop to about 1,200. So in conjunction with long wait time for foreign titles, which range from 9 months to 1 year, so local publishers are less likely to publish overseas titles than before.
Yeah, well, the demand is still there, and I hope that the supply can meet the demand. And it seems like the Chinese gamer community is a very resourceful bunch. From what we've seen, they find a way to play the games, and they find a way to consume the content that they're interested in. So I hope that it becomes possible for international trade in games, including China, to continue this year. I'm sure it will. Everything's just a little more tedious at the moment due to the international situation. Speaking of turning on your video, which is a wise suggestion that Cynthia made, we've been noticing that streaming video, especially game streaming video, is like incredibly popular in China. And there's been a lot of usage of streaming video over the past couple of months and, over the past few years. But this is not slowed down at all, with the exception of the one day of mourning when everything was slowed down. But what do we think about the future of streaming video for games in general, COVID or no COVID? Do you think this is a phenomenon that is part and parcel of the success of the industry in China and even outside of China? So I'm talking about Douyu or Twitch or Huya or any of the others. Take your pick. How about we ask Amy first?
Well, actually, our game is very casual. We have card-based games, so that represents classic board games. So I think this the streaming of the games is more relevant to more of the mid to hardcore types of esports games that people watch for entertainment and for competitiveness. So I can't speak very much to this point, but I do want to say that for our game, people want to have that live connection with people and the real-time playing. So that's something that we've seen a huge demand in for our games.
Oh yeah, so the social element, the community and connection is never going to go away. I think people will take advantage of any technology that allows them to be connected and live at the same time. How about Jeff? What do you feel about streaming video and for games, and maybe taking these esports tournaments online instead of offline and so forth? What are you seeing in connection with your work, or just your observation being there?
Yeah, I mean, China have been leading the charge on being a connected country. Obviously a lot of these technologies started in the West, but when it hits China, it hits on a much bigger scale, and the adoption rate is much higher. When we look at esports, and when we look at other part of the gaming industry, in terms of streaming, China have been leading charge on how to monetize streaming. China have been leading charge on viewership, the view length for users. So in terms of being a virtual esports tournament per se, in 2019, actually when I was Macau actually hosted one of the biggest Asia championship for PUBG. And we have a big arena in the Kodai arena and casinos, and we have more than like 3,000. I think it was a 3 days tournament with roughly around 3,000 guests that fly from all parts of the world. But in terms of the online viewership, we're talking about like 10 million users at one point, CCU. So obviously, I think the online esports viewing in China and tournament is already there. Now, if in terms of being the player, not playing on site and playing at home, I think the bigger question would be anti-cheating and how do we monitor a player that is playing by himself or playing on the right device. The game client is not hacked. There's no extra help on the side.
Yeah.
I think that will be something that we will need to look into. But I think from a viewer perspective, I think it's already there. Pre-COVID-19, we're already there.
Yeah, I think it was set up well for that. But you make a really good point about the integrity of the tournaments. Do you, Bill, do you have any comments about the integrity of the tournaments, or, what you think might evolve, if something goes awry with the tournaments online in China, it might spill over to the rest of the world, because it's obvious that Asia is the heart of esports globally, and China is the pulse of that heartbeat. So what do we think about China being a thought leader and an action leader? How can we mitigate that risk, and what other thoughts might you have on esports?
Sure. Well, we'll see Chinese players already embrace the esports online. So Tencent League of Legends Pro League started the online tournament last month, and on the first day, the viewership reached over 100 million. And Honor of King, another big game made by Tencent, their league started online on March 18th, and they got over 62 million peak concurrent viewership. The left side, as you mentioned, online tournaments face a lot of issues. It's very difficult to make competition fair when pro players are scattered around the country and have different hardware and internet connectivity at home. So that's a big issue. But online streaming, that's the trend for the future. We see Douyu and Huya have big traffic jump back to February. They have over 30% to 40% increase. So live streaming is a bright spot and will stay there even after the outbreak of coronavirus is over.
Okay, great. Thank you. So as we're talking about some spending and observing games and playing and watching and streaming, it makes me think about how any changes that might have happened in ad revenue or in in-app purchases in games during COVID, or if these changes are here to stay. And Cynthia, I think you might be a great person to lead us off here with an answer. What kind of data has your company observed, or what are your feelings about how IAP and advertising revenue might have changed over time?
Yeah, so because our company, we do provide like a distribution platform for a lot of mobile vendors to provide the gaming content, because we before we designed an operational system called Runtime with WeChat together, so we supported WeChat minigame platform, and then we later on we sold this operational system to like Oppo, Vivo, all of those mobile phone vendors, and some mobile phone vendors overseas. So we can see actually both in China and in overseas in terms of the ads revenue and in-app purchase. So the interesting thing is that in the very beginning of pandemic situation, we see actually a huge increase on the in-app purchase, and both in-app purchase and ads advertisement. And then it's actually increased a lot. And then after like 2 weeks, and then this advertisement is slightly going down. Also the in-app purchase. So we now see for advertisement, we see like 20% drop based on the compared with the peak. And then for the in-app purchase, the interesting thing is that during the weekday, we don't see that much of in-app purchase. But during weekends, we see actually the same amount. So one perspective is that maybe because right now in China, people already, they went to work, so they don't spend that much of time playing games at home. That's one perspective. And the other perspective is that because the game designer, they're trying to give a lot of gift package on weekends. So actually can buy more stuffs with some discount. So one assumption is that we think players, they still have a huge demand to play game and purchase stuff, but they're trying to, look at something with better ROI. You don't need to spend that much of money, but you can still gain a lot of good stuff. So that's that explains why on weekends, users, they're still having a lot of purchase. On advertisement side, actually, it has been a little bit difficult because for our understanding, the advertisers, they're not having more budget. The budget is actually shrinking down because of the situation. And actually, usually we spend more time to play games, to watch ads. That means we don't have enough view rate. And we don't have enough view rate. Actually, the view rate all dropped a lot after the pandemic. So this together, actually, it becomes a little bit difficult situation. And back to your previous question, you were talking about live streaming, because we do cooperate with some of the big platform in China. As Bill said, actually, the platform in China, they become really popular because of the host. So the platform, they're actually trying to pay millions of dollars for the host to play the games. Whoever got the host, whoever got more audience. So actually, there were some new ways of doing this. We're actually trying to cooperate with some of the live streaming platform to combine with cloud gaming solution together. So you can actually, play the games and you can handle the control to some of the audience or compete with someone together on live stream. So actually, in this way, you won't highly depend on the host, but you can depend on the format, the operation to get more audience, to make them more engaged. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of innovation and some necessary changes to make the best out of the new reality.
Hi,
Jeff,
Lisa.
are you seeing?
Do you
anything
mind? Yes. Do you mind? So I run the publishing business. So I have a few things to share about how things have been changing in the past 3 months. So what we see is in terms of advertising, we're hitting a new high because players have definitely more time. So first is we see a spike in our DAU, our CCU over time. And it have continued to spike. Even some of our more casual side of the game, like Subway Surfer, Temple Run, that we normally see player coming back 5 times a month, is coming back in 15 times a month to 20 times a month. So that's 4 times the coming back. So definitely when you have more view, if we look now, we're just talking about ad. So when you have more player coming back and you have more player, definitely that means you have more ad slots. Then the second problem is the fill rate. Do you have the capacity? Do you have enough orders that you're working with to fill up the ads? Now, I think in terms of what is happening to China right now, which is another thing that we're seeing, and I think this is going to be the same all over the world, is because of COVID-19, a lot of business is getting hit, especially the offline business. And if your game is relying on more online business advertising, you will have less hit. You are just working on the fill rate problem. But I think the overall ad industry, there's a big portion of it is from the offline industry or more traditional industry. And these industries are definitely struggling. This is not about do they have the budget, or it's more about do they still exist? Are they surviving? Right? There's a lot of bailout across the globe on traditional industry. So with these advertisers going away, obviously the online market is not capable of coming in to fill up all of them in one vacuum. So ultimately, what happens is because advertisers see that the view rate is not getting hit, then what us as the vendor, we will start lowering our price to increase the bill rate. And with that in place, then you have more people playing the game, but your ad revenue in terms of per CPA or per CPM is lowering, right? So I think this is going to have more of an effect as time goes by, because most companies just starting to realize how much of a hit they get and reorganizing themselves. So that's one. That's on the advertising side. Now, in terms of the in-app purchase side, I totally agree with one of the panelists. Where even pre-COVID-19, since 2018, in iDreamSky, we've been starting to see that Chinese gamers are getting more and more mature, where they are more reasonable and they are more skeptical about how they spend, what is the spending pattern in the game. Unlike what I have seen in the past 10 years, when Chinese gamers are kind of known to be they spend mindlessly. They will just go in and start consuming every single thing that there is in the game and try to spend all the money in the world in the game. Chinese gamers are now getting more and more mature. They start to look at the ROI. They start to look at like who make the game. Is this a game I want to invest my time in? Is this a game I want to invest my hard-earned money in? Why not I pay another game which may be $49.99, or $69.99, and I can have equally 2 months of joy, rather than going into a game that is going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 just to be okay, right? So pre-COVID-19, this has already been a trend, and now in COVID-19, and I would say China is kind of in a semi-post-COVID-19 already. What we're seeing is the bigger guys get bigger. The quality, either the guys that is big is getting bigger, or the games that have shined through this period is getting a lot more traction because of the scale and the word of mouth. Everyone is asking everyone's like, what game are you playing during COVID-19, right? And people's like, I'm playing this game. So I think that is going to speed up the rate of maturity in the Chinese gamers' behavior. So like Bill said, content is king, and I think it is going to be even more predominant because of COVID-19. The consumers are definitely going to look for higher quality content.
All right, good. Well, that can only be positive for the industry, I think. I've got one more question to ask, and why don't I start with Amy? Do you think that gamers have taken this opportunity while sitting at home to shift from mobile gaming to PC gaming, or from PC gaming to mobile gaming? Do you think they're exploring other ways of gaming that they hadn't really taken the time to explore in the past, especially in light of the fact that some PC gamers still enjoy internet cafes, which are now closed or open and then closed and so forth? What are you seeing with your games and just the word on the street through you?
I think during this period, we're seeing a shift, a demand rise across all channels, so mobile and PC. It's still a function of your habits, and we've seen new titles come out on PC and console that's done really well in the last few months. But overall, I still think that mobile is going to be where the demand is and the growth is post this period for gaming.
Okay. And Bill, do you have any last words on that? Because I think we're just about out of time.
Sure. Well, I agree with Amy. Mobile is still dominant, while PC is still big market. Now over 40 million Chinese players on Steam these days. As for the internet cafes, I think that's a disaster for them. Well, when the coronavirus is over, will people go back to internet cafes? Yes. How many people will go back? That's a big question mark.
Yeah.
I have the answers.
Oh, you had answered. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I have over 20 internet cafes in China in collaboration with Tencent. So we're operating official Tencent internet cafes in China. Obviously, during coronavirus, we shut everything down. However, we actually keep it operational online. So we're creating a virtual online internet cafe, which is kind of weird.
Wow, fascinating.
But actually, yes, I can share that sometimes later. But what we actually find out is after coronavirus, when the ban is lifted, people is just eager, dying to meet with real person, right? So they were flocking into the internet cafe, and we actually need to put in a measure to stop them and say like, all right, yes, it's over, but keep distance, please. Yes,
okay.
But definitely, I think it's still here.
All right. Well, that's great to know. I mean, I know it's such a part of the culture. So I could talk to you all for the next 3 hours, but I think we're being cut off. So thank you so much for sharing all of your views and your insight. It's been amazing. And for the people who are watching this live, then we can answer your questions in a room after, or you can also contact us directly via email and whatnot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.